18 days of sailing on the Sundancer. 65 feet catch, towing 78 feet motor yacht from Miami to New Orleans and sailing back to Miami. That was the roughest, toughest sailing adventure I've ever been on. And we had some little excitement. Almost lost the boat. The US Coastguard had to help out a little bit with dropping some water pumps out of an airplane. And we got into really rough weather with 30-40 knots winds. Got hit by some cold fronts. Temperature went from southern Caribbean temperature to underneath freezing point. We had frost on deck. We had some fun cutting out fishing and lobster and crab trap buoys out of our props all day long, and many more little obstacles on our way. But we delivered the boat. That's all that counts. Day 1. Leaving the dockage in Miami with the Sundancer and picking up the Endera, a 78 footer, and towing it on the hip out of the river into Biscayne Bay. First towing exercise without problems. Beautiful day, everything went well, apart from the marina, which was not very cooperative. This boat definitely hasn't been cleaned for years. It's super dirty. Hopefully we get some rain on the way to New Orleans and it gets washed away, at least a little bit. This is Captain Steve bringing the running lights on, which we have been wiring. Unfortunately, we're just doing 2 knots right now as we're fighting the current. We would have had a better time planning, go out early in the morning or already yesterday night or the day before yesterday. But unfortunately, there were some contracts not made. Marina was not acting like we would have liked them to act, and they didn't bring the boat out. And well, we had to wait and wait and wait, but finally we're on the way now. That's all what counts. Just a little bit slowly but safe, and let's see how far we'll get today. First time towing test. Let's see how good the bridle works. First towing test successful. Anchored at Elliott Key. Boat and anchor check. Day 2, leaving the ICW and going along the Keys southwest in the open Atlantic. Class of how to tie knots. Bowline, half hitch, figure 8, and check on the other boat done. No water running into it, everything clear. Beautiful day, beautiful weather, a lot of good dishes prepared by Captain Steve. And we caught 1 fish, a barracuda, and now heading into the sunset. Started at 4:30 in the morning and we'll go all night. Day 3, crossing from the Atlantic via the 5th channel into the Gulf of Mexico. First time under motor sail, using the jib, the staysail and the mainsail. Running through minefields of buoys, buoys, all day long. Got 1 caught into one of our props and 7 into the props of the Endera. Cut them all free and finally speed it up again by 1 knot. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. We're dragging again, crab traps, slowed down to approximately 3 knots. Not even an hour after we had cut everything loose. night from the 3rd to the 4th day got really bad. Weather changed. We got a north front coming in, hitting us directly. We got wind speeds of more than 20 knots constant, and swell got really bad. The ocean was super rough. We got swell of more than 5 foot. I got seasick. We continued like that for more than 24 hours.
There's our first mate Danny. It's all better now.
Very good stuff.
He's got his crackers.
Day 5. We almost lost the Endera. Charlie and I jumped from reeling to reeling to do the daily check just before noon on the 4th of November, and what we saw was really shocking. We got tons of water in the engine rooms of the Endera. It was almost sinking. If we would have boarded just an hour later, there would have probably been no chance anymore to rescue it. We had help from the United States Coast Guard. An airplane came by and dropped another pump. We had to breathe a lot of carbon monoxide and we're working under very, very unhealthy conditions. Also, we didn't have the right tools we needed to. A simple screwdriver would have helped a lot. We were definitely not prepared for disaster like that, and we didn't know exactly where the water was coming from. We had a couple of ideas, suggestions, that it came through the exhaust, that it came through the back door, but we weren't quite sure. Day 5 ended with the Coast Guard towing the Endera with about 8 knots to Tampa Bay, and we heading towards Tampa as well on the Sundancer with also 7.5 knots, meeting up in Tampa Bay again, and the Coast Guard handing the boat over to us again. Day 6. The Coast Guard met us early in the morning. They didn't come over for pancakes, but they came over to check our boat, the documents, that everything is okay. We got some projects going on, fixing up the Endera. What do you think were the reasons now that we got water into the boat?
Oh, it's most likely from the garage door. We have to also check the forecastle chain lock and make sure there's no way water could be getting up and through there, because in the rough weather the bow was going pretty far down, and then water could go up through the chain hose and into the forward part of the vessel. So we'll have to check it thoroughly. Yes, sir.
Repairing the gadget at the rear door, fixing the probable water issues. Yesterday the engine room was 3 foot deep underwater, so the water came up to here. Complete engines were underwater. Flooded everything in here. Water came up here, so I would be in water up to here. And there were buckets of diesel floating around, so this was a mixture of diesel and water we had to pump out. Also, the Sundancer got a little bit damaged in all the action. Half of the starboard rudder is missing now. Went to refuel the Sundancer. It's very hard to get this fuel running here. Actually, it's not a real marina, it's a fishing dock. So that's probably the reason why the gallon of diesel is $1 cheaper here than at the official marina, which is next to it. I'm on the mast now, exchanging the part of the mainsail. Now finally, evening of day 5 underway again, moving north along the coast of Florida. Day 7. No problem with the Endera today. Weather sunny, cloudy, getting a little bit colder as we are going north. Wind around about 15 knots. We tried to repair the mainsail, bring the halyard up again, but it came down immediately again because it broke. We had 2 dolphins coming by, and swimming along our boat. And today, first time sailing with the mizzen, the back sail. Mizzen and jib, making a speed of 4.5 to 5 knots under motor sail. Day 8, accompanied by tons of purposes. Wonderful morning. We had our daily check of the Endera, made sure that there's no water running into it anymore. Everything's okay. There's still a little tiny leak, but not too much to worry about, so we should be safe. And right now we're heading towards Mobile, Alabama, and want to run along the coastline as close as possible to be in shallow waters and avoid a lot of swell. We repaired the mainsail during the day and we transferred 200 to 300 gallons of diesel from the extra fuel tank into the fuel tank. We're out wide in the Gulf of Mexico, nothing around us except of water and a lot of fresh air to breathe, but we have to smell the diesel exhaust. Day 9. A terrible north front kicked in. Temperature is falling rapidly. It got super cold. Cold front kicked in. We were freezing to death. Charlie even rested in the engine room to heat up. Wind 20 to 30 knots all the time. Swell of 5 to 7 feet high. It was a horrible day. We're glad we made it through and that the Endera didn't sink. Day 10. Sun is up again. We have sun and it's getting a little bit warmer again. Everybody's glad. We're approaching the coast. There's tons of shrimp trolleys surrounding us. We're in very shallow water. Boarding of the Endera in calm waters successfully. No big problems. We had to pump out a little bit of water, but no severe damage. Just running with one engine as the cooling system of the second one doesn't work anymore. Top speed there is 3 knots. Temperatures falling into the 30s in degree Fahrenheit during the night. Day 11. The excitement never ends. It's somewhere in between midnight and sunrise, and we're stuck in the middle of the river or channel here of New Orleans in Louisiana, and we were running out of fuel and now have a problem starting the engine up again. We ran onto the ground and fortunately at the side of the channel so that the barges can pass by. And we got stuck in an absolute absurd situation. We traveled more than 700 nautical miles with a lot of problems, but we solved all of those, and now we got stuck 0.5 miles away from our final destination. We couldn't deliver the Endera because the bridge didn't want to open. It was closed, permanent. Nobody feels responsible for this bridge. The bridge is not open for marine traffic. Day 12. The Endera is making its last 0.5 miles to the marina. Unfortunately, not towed by the Sundancer because of this bridge. So we have to use the dinghy. The 25 horsepower engine. Bye bye. Day 13. We started heading back to Miami. We also figured out a way of getting fresh water and diesel supply directly delivered to our bridge. As you can maybe see from my clothes, I'm wearing 4 or 5 6 layers of clothes now. It's freezing. It's really cold outside. Another north front kicked in and temperatures fell almost close to freezing point. Overall, we had a temperature drop of more than 30 degrees Celsius on this trip within less than 1 week. It's so cold outside that even the battery of the camera dies immediately once I go outside. But unfortunately, even inside it's not way better. This boat is not prepared for this kind of weather. It's for tropical exploration terms to Cuba and the Bahamas. Its hulls are just a quarter of an inch of fiberglass with no insulation at all. So actually the temperature outside and inside is the same. The only thing which is not inside is the wind. But we even get water inside from the condensation. It's wet inside now as well. Day 13 ended at a very calm anchorage spot right next to another railroad bridge in a protected area. Some trees gave a lot of wind shade. Day 14. We got frost on our deck. Everything froze. Now the temperatures are finally really below freezing point. Isn't that nice? Less than 2 weeks ago I slept on deck because it was too hot inside to sleep. It's now kind of unthinkable anymore.
Problem is, you can't take pictures of cold. You can only feel cold.
And we don't have heating inside apart from the stove and the engine room. But it doesn't give a lot of heat neither. We keep ourselves warm with hot tea and coffee all around the clock and soup and any kind of food. Usually we were doing 3 to 4 hour watches, time where a single person has to take the helm and steer the boat. Today we had to cut the time down to just 1 hour or even half-hour watches in the morning because of the coldness. During the day it got a little bit warmer. Unfortunately, we were not able to repair the port engine, so we have to rely on the starboard engine for the complete way back to Miami. Today we could use the wind. We were doing 6 knots the entire day from 6 in the morning, so that makes about 100 miles, 100 to 120 miles we are doing this day, straight southeast towards Florida. Day 15 was horrible, absolutely horrible. Strong winds, swell of 5 to 8 feet, and we were just shaking around all day. We were making good speed, but I was seasick and all the stuff from my bunk came down. And it was still freezing cold. I had 6 layers of clothes everywhere. 3 pants, 5 pairs of socks, and I changed my shoes every 15 or 30 minutes. Put 1 pair in the engine room and took another pair. Day 16. Sun is up again, getting warmer. Making good speed southeast towards the Keys under wing-to-wing sail. Flying fish jumping out of the water. Day 17. We're making wonderful speed towards the Florida Keys. The wind has really been favorable for the last days, especially today. We have a big swell of 8 foot and more, but it doesn't affect us a lot. We're going with it. It's pretty smooth. We're going down the swell and making up to 12 knots. Back in the Florida Keys. The water is green again and we're still cruising with 8 knots. After 4 days of continuous sailing without stopping, without seeing land, we finally ended the day dropping the anchor at a small island in the Florida Keys. And the highlight of the day, we had 1 to 2 hours of night sail completely without running the engine. The first time sailing silent. Day 18. The captain woke us up, started the engine at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we started heading north through the channels of the Florida Keys towards Miami. It got cold again. Another cold front coming down from Canada, which goes even into the Florida Keys. Wow. Water temperature is still at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so pretty warm in comparison, but combined with the strong wind of again 20 to 30 knots, the air is pretty cold. We made it back to the dockage after 18 days total sailing and motoring. What an adventure!